Hello, welcome to the special episode of Eurosis. I'm going to talk a little bit about what is on everyone's mind right now, which is of course Russian war against Ukraine. I'm going to talk about it a little bit in the context of Eurovision because of course that's what you guys are here for. So yeah, let's get to it. Yeah, as of now, it's been 6 days since the Russian invasion in Ukraine started. I will try to edit this video and release it as fast as possible before it becomes completely out of date. But, you know, we're talking about things that are developing really quickly. Things might change in a blink of an eye. Already, like yesterday, we had the first round of peace talks between Russians and Ukrainians. So who knows? I mean, of course, we should all hope that this ends soon and that the conflict will not claim any more lives than it already did, but we'll have to see. I have to say, and I think I'm not alone in this, that this came as a complete shock to me. Yeah, I knew about the troops on the border and all of that, but it just seemed so surreal, like the possibility of a full-scale war in Europe. Today, Europe has been experiencing a long period of peace and prosperity, and it seemed to me, and again, I believe I'm not alone in this, that we kind of came to this conclusion that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that it is better to peacefully cooperate, go on Erasmus, vacation on Gran Canaria or Zakynthos, and trade and do business. So this really makes no sense to me. Like, I can't wrap my head around it. It just is incomprehensible and pointless cruelty. So I think also geographic proximity does make it feel more real. I mean, when I hear about bombs falling on Kabul or Aleppo, it does feel more abstract to me. Like, when I even watch the footage from those places, I still feel more disconnected because, you know, I've never been in those places, number one. Number two, I mean, like, even the architecture of these towns is so different from what I know that it's like I can't imagine myself experiencing that. But when I see a missile hitting a high-rise residential building in Kyiv and you know, it looks exactly like the district of Ursynów in Warsaw, where I grew up. It feels a lot more palpable. And, well, on top of that, I have actually been to Ukraine and, 3 times, actually. So I have seen those metro stations where people are now taking shelter. I have seen the airport in Julianid, where now there is heavy fighting going on. Or now maybe not, but like a couple of days ago. I have seen the government district where, you know, that you can see in those videos with President Zelensky addressing the nation. That feels dangerously close. And it is, honestly. Moreover, I'm a bit of a Ukraine stan. I got really interested in the country in 2004 when the Orange Revolution started. I visited for the first time in 2008. I went to Lviv, Kyiv, Odessa, and Crimea also at the time. Then the second time that I visited was in 2015. So that was a year after the Revolution of Dignity and the year after the annexation of Crimea. During that trip, I visited Chernobyl. Very exciting. And of course I was staying in Kyiv, and again I fell in love with it even more. And then the last time I went there was in 2016, and I just chilled in Kyiv for a week that time. And I went on one day trip to Kamieniec-Podilsky because it's a place that's also significant for Polish history, so I was interested to see it. And also, you know, I was really excited to take another trip on Ukrainian sleeper trains. This is such a fun experience, I'm telling you. Everyone should try it. And yeah, I just have this huge fondness for that country. I can't explain to you why. It's just, when I first went there, I was like, wow, this is a really cool place. This I really feel like I am vibing with this place, if you know what I mean. It's not something that you can really put your finger on. It's, you know, it's just a feeling, right? It's the same as, like, I don't know, falling in love with someone, right? This also makes it really feel like a personal attack on some level. Like, Putin, what the fuck? But I'm also seeing that I'm not completely alone in this, that other people are also deeply affected by it. Honestly, I'm quite touched when I see the pretty universal outpouring of support and compassion for Ukrainians, you know, from my fellow Polish citizens. And, you know, as of now, it is estimated that around 300,000 Ukrainian refugees have already arrived in Poland. And, you know, people are welcoming them to their homes. And even our good-for-nothing government is actually doing the right thing for once. They eased some of the procedures on the borders. So I'm kind of impressed, I gotta say. On the other hand, though, it does leave a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, because right now, also, we have refugees from Iraq, Afghanistan, and other countries from Central Asia and the Middle East on our border, just a little north of Ukraine, and they are being hunted down by our border patrol and dumped on the other side of the border in Belarus. They are putting barbed wire, and of course our government is also saying that they're going to build a wall. Basically, people are freezing in a freaking bog, and most of Polish people are saying that we should not be helping them, according to the polls. What's up with that? Of course, I think a big factor here is racism. And a lot of people try to deny that. They say, like, oh, no, it's not about that. It's just that these people are a tool of Lukashenko. And, you know, I'm not going to get into, like, the whole issue there. I mean, if you want to know more about the crisis on our Belarusian border, yeah, go on Google and read more about it, because I don't really have time for this today. I have heard enough racist remarks from my compatriots to know that any of such, you know, excuses are mostly bullshit. Not to mention that, like, 6 or 7 years ago, right, when we were supposed to accept, you know, a number of refugees that we agreed to with the EU, right, relocated from other, like, countries like Italy and Greece and whatnot, and we accepted to take in 7,000 people. The previous government had accepted it, and the new government came in and was like, no. 7,000 people, that's nothing. And now we have 300,000 people coming over here, and our government's like, that's cool. That's cool, like, these people are cool, but 7,000 people, we're going to destroy our entire culture. Like, dumb. And don't tell me that there were any legitimate reasons to do that. It's just straight up racism. What I do think is a little bit different in this situation, though, and I think that is, let's say, a legitimate argument, is that I think that people now feel like this truly is our responsibility. Like, these are our neighbors, right? And we are truly the first safe place that they can go to. There is that context that we have to add to that, but I still think that my previous points still stand. Okay, so Eurovision. I think most of you watching already know all the developments, you know, from last week, but let me just recap this for you. On the 24th of February, which was the day of the invasion, Ukrainian public broadcaster already put out a statement calling on the European Broadcasting Union to ban Russia from this year's Eurovision Song Contest. Also called on EBU to suspend Russian broadcasters' membership. And soon after that, EBU put out their own statement saying that, let me just quote this so I get it right, Russian artists are welcome in the contest, and that The Eurovision Song Contest is a non-political cultural event which unites nations and celebrates diversity, free music, blah, 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 right? Yeah. Pretty much immediately, other European broadcasters came out and spoke out against keeping Russia in the contest, and they started demanding that Russia be excluded. And I want to again mention all of those countries that have officially called for excluding Russia. That would be Denmark, Estonia, Finland, Iceland, Lithuania, the Netherlands, Norway, Sweden, and obviously also Ukraine. So basically, the day after, EBU caved in to mounting pressure and they released a statement, and let me quote it. So, no Russian act will participate in this year's Eurovision Song Contest. The decision reflects concern that, in light of the unprecedented crisis in Ukraine, the inclusion of a Russian entry in this year's contest would bring the competition into disrepute. From what I could see on any Eurovision-related social media, the fans welcomed this decision by the EBU. Everywhere, the news was greeted with likes and hearts. Of course, I did check the comment section because that's usually where you can find the dissenters. So some people agreed with the general sentiment, but rather thought that EBU didn't go far enough. And for example, they took issue with the wording of the statement, the fact that EBU referred to war in Ukraine as a crisis. And yeah, I think that that was like a failed attempt by the EBU to soften the blow. I mean, it's like you're breaking up with someone and you don't want to hurt their feelings too much. And like, listen, feelings are gonna get hurt, okay? That's inevitable. No matter how hard you try to be nice about it, okay? So, and yeah, that's exactly what happened here. I mean, Russia obviously took offense anyway because all of the Russian public broadcasters withdrew their membership in the EBU the next day. I think that it was a bit of a missed opportunity. I think that EBU could have taken a more principled stance here. I personally don't have an issue with the wording that much. I still think that the message is clear and Russia received it as such, so that's enough for me, honestly. I think the mistake was the first statement, though, because saying that, you know, Russian artists are welcome in the contest, etc. You know, later on they had to, like, almost immediately walk it back, and it was sort of embarrassing, honestly. So they should have just put out something vague, like, oh yeah, we're gonna review it. Something along those lines, I think, would have just been a better choice. Some people, very few people I should add, complained that this was a political decision and Eurovision is supposed to be apolitical. I mean, I was obviously expecting that because Eurovision kind of attracts this type of people. Okay, that sounded very negative. I mean, I think that those are very nice and well-intentioned people. I just think that their ideology is very misguided. You might have probably heard of the paradox of tolerance, right? As described by the philosopher Karl Popper. And he argued that if we want to maintain a tolerant society, then the society has to be intolerant of intolerance. Otherwise, it would be destroyed by the intolerant. This is a kind of a similar situation, I would say. It's kind of, if we would just always indiscriminately apply the rule of being non-political, then, you know, it would kind of come back around the other end. It would actually become political. That would be this case, I think. Not banning Russia from this year's contest would be allowing them to kind of sweep it under the rug. It would be helping them to save face and to project this image like, oh, we're a civilized country and we're just, you know, here on a peace mission. There are some limits to how non-political you can be. And here I would also maybe quote another famous person, Desmond Tutu, who said that if you are neutral in situations of injustice, then you are siding with the oppressor. And I think that this is exactly true in this case. Besides, I mean, the number one, I think that the whole non-political thing is BS. Eurovision is a deeply, deeply political event. And, well, I will refer you to a video that I made like 3 years ago or something, and I will link it here, or I will put it in the description below this video, or I'll put it at the end. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert on putting links in the videos, so you'll find it somewhere for sure. If you want to know more about how Eurovision even started and why I think it's a deeply political event. I would say that the non-political nature of Eurovision is basically only limited to not allowing overtly political lyrics. That's basically it. And then again, you can get away with quite a lot of political messaging in your songs. It just has to be the right political messaging. So for instance, when you call for peace among nations, listen, that's also a political message. Same if you sing about tolerance. That doesn't even, like, I wanted to say flies under the radar. It doesn't even fly under the radar. That is just, yeah, that is something that the EBU signs off on. Like, yeah, totally. This is good political messaging, and that is allowed. Other than that, you can get away with it by being very vague and not pointing fingers. Like, you're not supposed to, let's say, name names, you know, point at specific political parties or, you know, nations. So yeah, the non-political nature of Eurovision is a bit like the Santa or Tooth Fairy. And I also think that we shouldn't want Eurovision to be completely apolitical. We should want Eurovision to stand for something, promote some kind of values, to have some meaning to it. I would also argue that those fans who like the non-political Eurovision should actually be happy with this decision. Think about what would happen if a Russian participant showed up on that stage. They would get the fuck booed out of them. It would be nasty. You know, the politics would become, like, very visible. So if you actually don't want to see politics on the stage, well, this way actually EBU ensured a more peaceful and less political contest. So in the end, the only way that politics will be present in the contest this year would be through noticeable absence of it, which is the way that the EBU generally wants it. Some people accused EBU of hypocrisy because if Russia gets banned, then how come, for instance, Israel is allowed to participate? And I mean, that's totally fair. What can I say? I mean, I did also make a video after the 2019 Eurovision Song Contest. So you can also see it here, or at the end of this video. You know, you'll get there. I guess you could say the difference is that we don't actually have tanks running people over in Palestine right now. Instead, we have their houses being bulldozed. Or, you know, I mean, and of course, people are dying under occupation. It does happen, but I guess it's the question of scale. Yeah, but then again, there were times when Israel was waging actual wars on their neighbors at the time when they participated in Eurovision, and they never got banned. So yeah, there is clearly a bit of a double standard here for sure. But, you know, we should also remember that, for instance, when after Russia invaded Georgia, right, the following year, it was Georgia that got banned because they chose a song which was too political. So, you know, EBU doesn't have a great record in general on that. So it's a bit of a miracle that we kind of got them to make such a decision this year. So yeah, I guess we should be grateful for that at least. So yeah, I mean, to wrap this up, of course I think that this was the right decision by EBU. I think that was pretty clear from my commentary so far. Yes, I mean, of course I'm going to proceed with making regular videos, so you will see more reviews of this year's songs, don't worry. So thank you very much for listening to me. If you have any comments, I mean, bring it on in the comment section. Let's talk, I dare you. Do whatever you can to support Ukrainians in their time of need. I mean, obviously, if you can, if you live in Poland, then of course think about, you know, taking in refugees who need shelter. That is what I'm volunteering to do. I'm kind of waiting for, you know, some kind of a message that I can welcome someone to my home. I have 2 spare bedrooms, so I definitely have the resources to help. Monetary support is always good. You know, if the only thing you can do is just donate money, that's also totally fine. You know, you can reach out to any organizations that are offering help, and you can find out what you can do. That's what I encourage you guys to do, and go out to a protest in your town, or organize a protest in your town. You know, everything helps, honestly. Right, thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you next week.